turn the things in, do the work, because you are all good storytellers. So getting that kind of, that's always stuck with me of the reason why people, I think, don't go out and create things is because they feel like it's not good. And even if someone's really new at something, there can still be those gems hidden in all of the just newness of, no, you are good at this, you just need to polish it.
Friend, here's something I don't know if you know. While the podcast is a thought of mine for a long time, thinking of me absolutely could not be doing this without our very own Wizard of Oz, Kyle, at Goodnight Podcasting Solutions. Kyle's turnaround time, dedication and level of service means that I never have to second guess or worry about the level of support in getting our messaging out to you. If you're curious as to starting your own podcast or just want to see how it might spread your message, reach out to Kyle at kylegoodnight.com or check our show notes. I mean it when I say that we couldn't be doing this without him. Hello. Welcome to today's episode of the Thinking of Me podcast, where this week we have Alyssa Poole with us, and I'm really excited to introduce who's become a new friend through Mastermind Business Academy. She's connected in multiple different rooms, and we've kept a connection through messaging and now through social media, and we dip in and out with each other's lives in catch-up calls. And I'm excited to be able to introduce her on the podcast because as someone who is a new entrepreneur, is a wife, is a storyteller, and is a very spiritual being, I find connections like what we've begun together something that was meant to happen. I find connections like this often serendipitous in a way that you don't intend necessarily on meeting someone, but as soon as you do, it's like you've met another kindred spirit. And I would see Alyssa as a kindred spirit at this point, and whether it's fantasy worlds of Harry Potter or, as you say, trying to work out tech things in the entrepreneurial world, it's been lovely to get to know Alyssa. And I'll allow her to introduce herself a bit more. But for friends listening, if you want to check out some of her work, you can check her show notes. And this is a very creative, caring soul. That's what I would say. So, Alyssa, if you want to say hi and let people know who you are.
Well, first of all, thank you for letting me come hang out with you for a little bit. I've been looking forward to this. So my name is Alyssa. I am a writer, storyteller, highly creative person, and I have the best husband in the world that lets me run free with all my wild creativity. But as Lauren said, we met on MBA, both creating, crafting different businesses alongside of each other. And then we just kind of clicked, having some similarities in the arts. And it's just really cool to see how you and I are kind of coming along each other on this journey a little bit. You're a few steps ahead of me, but like we're doing different things. You're doing a podcast. I'm like starting up a YouTube channel, and just seeing how we can help each other with like tech questions, or, hey, what do you think about this piece? Or what do you think about this lead magnet or whatever? It's been really fun to just have someone who's around the same, doing very similar things, even though we're taking different paths. It's just so helpful to be like, okay, I'm not the only one who's crazy enough to try to start a business.
100%. And I think that's exactly it in finding people when you're at a new point in life. Even if the path looks slightly different, you're ultimately heading in the same direction, and yeah, I was reflecting myself this week kind of on that with, say, some of our college friends and friends who are at a transition point and they don't know what they're doing. And I really cracked that, I think, this week in a way that it was like, oh, that's what was missing for me. It was like, I just didn't have connection. It was like the girls were doing one thing and I felt like I was doing something else. And as you say, just seeing another friendly face and knowing someone who understands what the word lead magnet means makes you feel a little less crazy and a little bit more,
yes,
at one with each other. And Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm further ahead, Alyssa, at all. I joined the academy before yourself, and I suppose some things are some are coming a little bit quicker than others by now. So I feel like I can make progress. But I love the clarity you have around the work that you're doing for the people you are looking to help, and that foundation is what I admire, and that conviction you have for ultimately what you're building. So if you'd like to share, what that idea you're working on is and how you intend on being able to spread your learning in helping other people.
Definitely. So I am so excited to be doing this because when I started writing realist more consistently, I think I started writing when I was 14. And writing a book, it will never see the light of day. I used it to, teenage process emotions because everyone goes through that phase of what is it like to be a human being who's an adult but not. Um, so I have always loved writing. I went to college for filmmaking, and I've worked in the film industry a little bit, both independent and on really big union things. But even in the studying writing in school, studying it a lot on my own, I've come to learn there's not a lot of resources for people who are just starting out writing. Like a lot of things that you can find online are going to be more geared towards intermediate, more advanced writers. Typically people who already understand the foundations, and then it keeps the ball rolling for them. And then I learned a style of writing in college, which I spent the next few years outside of college going, oh, I'm a terrible writer. I can't do this. And that wasn't the case. It was because I was being taught one specific way how to write, and that just didn't make sense for me. It's like visual artists. You have some people who are sculptors, you have some people who are painters, you have some people who make beautiful ceramics and pottery. But if you give that medium to a different artist, a medium that they're not familiar with, a medium that their brain doesn't work around, they're gonna feel a little lost. And I think that's something that writers haven't really been told, especially people who are brand new to the craft, is there are many ways to write. There are different ways of formatting. Some people can just sit down and write a book. Other people, like me, need a detailed outline to even get started. And both are right. So I am I'm building this business called Going Beyond Entertainment to help aspiring writers, specifically fantasy writers, learn the fundamentals. Because a lot of people get stuck and give up on their books, give up on their scripts, what have you, because they don't know the fundamentals and they get frustrated and they think, oh, I can't do this. No, you can do this. You just don't have the right tools, or you don't even know certain tools exist. So like I said, I'm really excited to do this because this is something I had been looking for years and not been able to find. So knowing that I'll be able to help somebody, go light years faster than I did because they simply have the tools, I'm so excited.
And that's the magic of it, is knowing that you have something that the previous you would have loved. And that's what's so fun in building and crafting this. And for friends listening, who do think I'm the crazy one, if you're my friend or your fearless's friend and thinks this whole process is the crazy thing, it is crazy. And it's only crazy because it's new. And like, I love that the quote, I'm not sure who said it just off the cuff, but they build the statues of the crazy people, not the critics, and something like that seems so simple but yet isn't done. When we decide and we say that this is what we want to do and this is why we want to do it, it brings about an impact. And I'm really grateful for some of my writer friends as well. You know, we've had Aoife Meagher on here, and we've had Fenella Fox, a poet, on the podcast so far, where, you know, it's the same thread. I think I play with the pen, as I call it. You know, I've no structure. And that is an area of work for me in this year, like in 2025. That's on the goals list, because it's having an idea. It's the same thing, I think, in like writing a story or building a business. In a way, it's like you have an idea, you see something that someone else doesn't see, and you're trying to explain that and bring that to people because it's going to make an impact, it's going to help, you know. And yeah, I love that, Alyssa. And I'm curious, while we're like kind of on that, what would be kind of some of the stories or the people who wrote the stories that would have inspired you the most? You know, you said you played with the pen yourself. You started writing as a teenager. Where did that kind of come from, or who do you pull from the most, do you find, when you're writing?
Oh goodness. Well, I have always been a storyteller. I was the kid that would spend hours running around outside just creating stories with friends. I would spend hours more hanging out in my room playing with, like, yeah, do you remember Littlest Pet Shops? The little animals? Yes, I would
I
spend
do.
hours crafting these like complicated plots with these, with my toys. Just always have been creative, wrote short stories in school because they're like, you are going to write a short story because we've been reading Gilgamesh and the Odyssey and all this stuff. So I've always loved storytelling. I've always been drawn to the arts, did a lot of dancing growing up, did musical theater in my teen years. And I remember this certain movies really just sticking to me when I watched them when I was younger. But one of a really neat memory I've actually been thinking of recently is I remember going to go see the first How to Train Your Dragons movie in theaters with my mom. I have no idea why just the two of us went to go see a movie. I don't remember if I ever expressed interest in this movie, but as the two of us went, and I remember sitting in the theater, and it was the first time that I had watched a movie in theater all the way through without like being frightened by anything. Because I'm a very sensitive person, especially when I was younger. Like I remember seeing Spirit in theaters and like wanting to hide because of all the fire that starts in the movie. But I remember getting to the end and having this sense of, I connect with this. I see myself in the character of Hiccup. And the sacrifice that he made at the end of the film was very risky to put in a kid's movie. But it was that moment that I had kept my mouth shut for the next 6 months, waiting every day we went to a store, waiting, oh, is it coming out yet? Is it coming out? Is it out on DVD? Can I get it and show the rest of my family? Like, I remember keeping that last 5 minutes of the film a secret for that long because I wanted to share the story with my loved ones. And I think that's one of the first moments that really started clicking in my head of how powerful a story can be and how beautiful it is to share those stories with other people. Because if you look back all throughout history, we've been telling stories. It's been the primary method of teaching lessons and passing on values and beliefs to the next generation. And I think that's what the core of storytelling is. It's sharing beliefs, showcasing those values. That's why all the stories that I really like and all the stories I write have hope. Even if, it's terrible things happen, there's always going to be hope in the end, because I know for me, I have an eternal hope because of my faith. And because that is so ingrained into my being and certain values are so ingrained to me, those are what I write. whether I'm intentionally doing so or not, it just naturally comes out. And I think that's another beautiful part of stories. So, well, a little tangent, but I think that was one of the first films that really clicked with me how powerful storytelling is and how much it can resonate with other people. But yeah, ever since then, I've had moments of like seeing certain movies and watching a scene just, oh my goodness, I want to make something this good. And I think that's really cool is to find stuff like that that just really inspires you. So,
I love that, and tangents are always welcome. But I went through so many memories, even of my own, in listening to yours, and having like that core memory yourself of that time that it had such a meaning and such an impact. You know, as you say, whether you consciously realize it or not, you know, they're the things that do drive us into what we're doing now and kind of keep bringing us back to base, as such as I call it sometimes. Because my granny's the storyteller here, and I would have shared that on the podcast like multiple times, like of growing up with some of her stories. And I'm don't feel I'm not as great of a storyteller as she is. I don't think anyone is, to be honest. My uncle would be great as well, but it's where something comes alive of when someone else is telling you, you know, that you can't even see. And then, as you say, you go and you watch a film. Like Harry Potter for me is my go-to and has been. It was the first film that, yeah, and Alyssa has it here in her backdrop and everything as well. Like we're connected, as I say, kindred spirit, of the first one that I remember going to see twice in the cinema. Like my dad brought me, and then it was quite a late showing. I had actually fallen asleep by the end, and it wasn't because I wasn't interested. It was like it was back when there was like 11 p.m. showings here in Ireland. Like we wouldn't have that late of a movie kind of a thing anymore. But yeah, and going back to see it again then with my mom, and I don't know if that's why she never got into it, is because I don't know, mom, if you're listening, like love you for all the times you'd bring me to to see the franchise, but like never actually got into it herself. And as you say, when you find someone or somewhere you can share that with, then, you know, or the excitement or the build up of the next thing coming out, or as you say, you know, sharing the cliffhanger moment of the actual meaning of the story. Again, you know, Downton Abbey is a story my granny and I shared in watching, and we're actually rewatching that at the minute. And both of us have forgotten parts of the storyline, but you know the characters so intimately, you know the outcome for, you know, some of the story. But a good story like that, where you can either listen to someone tell it again and again, or you want to go back and rewatch it, or where you're so excited to kind of share that. If you're the one that's creating that story, or helping someone to get theirs out there to structure it, as you say, like, yeah, it's an age-old thing. It's a core thread of human history where that's where we can connect. So yeah, there's some of my, I was also thinking when you mentioned, you know, with outside, we used to do that here. We used to play outside on the bikes, and friends would come over and you'd have your house in one shed, and you get married up the certain aisle in the garden, you know, and the Barbies would come out then when we'd come in for the sleepover, and you'd play with the Barbies, and all kinds of crazy stories. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
You come up with all kinds of everything. I'm actually wondering, Alyssa, because I don't think we ever spoke about this. Do you ever play Sims, actually, or anything like that digitally?
Sims specifically, I never played. Like my friend had it, so I would go over and like watch her play it a little bit, but I used to be more of a gamer than I am now. I do enjoy, like I said, if it's a good story, I will play it. I found that games that tend to be more of the, and now we are doing this, and now we're doing this, and oh, go collect 1,000 of this specific item. Like those tend to not hold my interest, but like right behind me, I have a shield from the Legend of Zelda series. It's hidden behind my chair, but I have the ocarina from Ocarina of Time, and I really loved playing, I say in quotes, those games, because my brother would play those games, my older brother, and then I would watch him play it because I was also the sensitive child of, I don't want to mess this up and I'm not good at actually playing the game. So you can, fight all the monsters and you could actually play it, but I would help him figure out all the puzzles. So that's another way that my brother and I really bonded, is we would play single player games together with these really beautiful stories. It's the Zelda series is so kind of close to me and special to me because it's, like I said, I played it with my brother. We bonded over that. But it's also a series that my dad played when he was our age, when he was a teenager. He would play it. And then my brother and I started playing the newer games, and then we got him back into the series when we were adults. So I think that's so cool. But yes, if it's a good story, I will enjoy it. I don't really care what medium it's in. But games are so much fun.
They are. And, I think our generation anyway, like that's what at times, kind of was the pastime, before social media, kind of after, as you say, like kind of those mediums came out where there was a little bit more than just playing in the garden, playing with the dolls and the Barbies, or, for guys listening, I'm sure I don't know, what did lads play with? What did lads play with before video games? I suppose sports, but yeah.
Nerf guns.
Yeah, all that kind of thing. I've no brothers. I've one
Many
sister.
Nerf wars
So.
in our family.
There's my ignorance showing. A girl with no brothers, but yeah, I'm hearing there, like, as you say, that connection of like being able to share the story and have that with your family through a game. And I mentioned Sims because just that was another one where like you could create your own story and you'd have all kinds of mad things. But yeah, you mentioned, Alyssa, your husband and how he's kind of the rock that allows you to go and or the anchor, and so that you can go and sail your ship and go on your explore and all your creativity. Have you ever had a time where in your life at any point where your creativity felt stuck because you didn't have a support system, or you found it harder to make that space or carve out that time because there was maybe other things that needed taken care of? Or have you always kind of had, whether it was your husband or say with your family, maybe that system in place where you could go play and create? Or I'm just curious as to that journey.
Definitely. Oh, that is such an excellent question. There was a period of time I was always very, very hard on myself, very perfectionistic. And that's only something that recently I've been coming out of because it's not healthy in any sense for any reason. You can absolutely deliver excellence and strive for excellence without being perfectionistic and putting yourself in the harmful chains. It really is bondage. But there was a time where, I would write and like, oh, this isn't really good because I was a teenager writing for the first time. Of course it wasn't good. And that's something I want new artists out there to hear. Your first stuff will not be good, and that is okay. Don't be mad at yourself for that, because that you're learning something. You don't get mad at a baby for not running a mile as soon as he can stand up. They have to crawl, they have to fall a lot before they can, start going. But with creativity, because as so many artists do, they feel really insecure about showing their work to other people or feeling like, oh, it's not good enough. I actually remember in college, my professor, like a lot of people were turning in their scripts late. And he's like, you guys are all amazing writers. I've had many classes. Many different years have come in. You guys are all really good writers. The only reason why you're turning in things late is because you fear it's not good enough. you guys are great. Like, turn the things in, do the work, because you are all good storytellers. So getting that kind of, that's always stuck with me, of the reason why people, I think, don't go out and create things is because they feel like it's not good. And even if someone's really new at something, there can still be those gems hidden in all of the just newness of, no, you are good at this, you just need to polish it. But after college, I went through a period of time of actually like hating the craft, because I thought I kept getting stuck. I kept trying to write and I couldn't really get far because I didn't know what I was doing. I had this training, I had a degree in storytelling, and I still felt like I couldn't tell good stories. Just feeling really, really just stuck, and just, and that took years to pull out of. But a huge part of that was my husband, Josh, because he loved me so much and supported me so much. While we were in college, the year after college, once we graduated and then we got married, about a year and a half after graduating. But it was really through him that I realized what unconditional love was. And I grew up in an amazing family. I love my family. We're very close. But it's your family. They're like required to love you. But yeah, the Lord really used Josh to show to me that I'm allowed to actually be myself, and I don't have to be like a social chameleon with anyone that I'm with and blending in with other people. I don't have to be a people pleaser. I'm allowed to be myself. And when I felt the most, I am terrible, why am I even trying to do this? It was Josh who's like, well, you love writing, so keep writing. It was him who said, yeah, when we get married, let's move down to Atlanta, Georgia, because that's where they're doing film. You want to be in the film industry? LA is way too crazy busy. New York is exactly the same. Let's move down to Atlanta. So he was really the one that saw, okay, you want to do something. I have a job where I can work wherever. Let's go here. And really being that safety net for me to go try things, to go work in the film industry and realize I don't want to work on all these big projects. I worked on several films and TV shows in a few years down there, and I've not watched a single one of them. I wouldn't want to watch a single one of them. There's actually one show that I walked off from because of the team I was working with was amazing, and I loved working with them, but I could not be there and support the content. I couldn't. It stood against everything that I believe in and hold to be true, and glorified something that I don't believe is true or should be glorified. So I was like, okay, I have personal things that came up in my life that I need to go handle. They're like, oh, I'm so sorry. I hope everything's okay. So I walked away and just felt so defeated because we had moved down here for me to do this. We had left our family so that I could do something that I realized I didn't like doing, that I went to school for and felt like I wasted all this time and all this money on. And just feeling really, trying to figure out what I want to do with my life and feeling really defeated. And just Josh being such a rock and so kind. It's like, well, you tried it, try something else. he, even when I was giving up on myself, he never really gave up on me. And he was actually the one that found Mastermind. He saw an ad pop up on YouTube and he's like, hey, I'm going to do like this free weekend thing. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm working. So I'll be back. Tell me about it later. So at the end of, it was one of their free weekend things. I don't remember which one it was, but he came to me and he's like, so they have this system in place and it's a yearly subscription. He told me about it. And I'm like, if it's something you want to do, I'm 100% on board. Do it. If you think it's that important, go for it. So he did. He got the business system and he like tampered around with it. Just was trying to figure out what he wanted to do. For those of you who don't know, the Mastermind has this business system that is essentially all encompassing everything that you need to actually grow a business. So from trainings to building a website to figuring out what it is that you want to sell, that kind of thing. So he was going through that, and then because he bought it, there was the 8-hour a day weekend event thing that we both went to. And that's when he realized this is not for me yet, because he wasn't sure what he wanted to share. And in those 3 days I went, and I want to teach people how to write. So he gave me the system. We changed all the login to, match my name and things like that. And I really started, digging in like, okay, how can I teach people how to write and all these kinds of things, building curriculums, trying to figure it out. And then we ended up moving closer to home, closer to family, just because both of our dads have been having some health issues. And, being 10 to 12 hour drive away from family is kind of hard. But having that space was really good. And for anyone who is dating, getting married, what have you, when you do get married, take those first few years to just be the two of you and figure out who you are as a unit. That is so important. So, so important.
I make no secret of the fact that my life changed completely when I reached out to Achievable Fitness 365. Jay is someone who not only gets the fitness side of things, he gets the human side of things. And in having someone who's walked the walk and talks the same thoughts has made me comfortable from the very get-go. Actually, that's a complete lie. I fell in the door and was sick on my first day, but kind of after that, I got comfortable somewhere along the line. Jay knows people, he knows the industry, and he's someone who will know you better than you know yourself. The accountability that he holds, the standard that he sets for you and not for anyone else is what brought me back into me originally, more than 4 years ago. If you're ready to begin your fitness journey and don't know where to reach out, try Jay. And as I say, my life has never been the same since. I love how, as you said, it was literally your marriage and your relationship has been such a gift to you in extending yourself, but also in believing in you when you have a question mark. And that's, I think, the real truth of a relationship. We have relationships with all things, and that's fine, but I think like an actual relationship, like with another human being, whoever that is, whether it's a family member or a partner or a sibling or a friend, a relationship is in being able to see those moments and see those things in us that we can't always see. And yeah, that permission that you felt you had to change your mind and try something new and follow your dream in the first place and going down to Atlanta, and then also know that, hey, my values are so strong and my belief system is so central to me that I know where I don't want to put the work into this. And like for me right now, and for anyone listening who knows some of my story, or that like it's with my family relationship that has been strained, you know, and is strained at times, and trying to find ways to be myself and I don't ask permission for being me anymore, you know. I've started asking for support of being me, and that this is what I like and this is what I don't like. And even things with food, like silly little things of fish of a Friday, because, you know, in Ireland, like fish of a Friday was a thing way back in Christian Ireland, like, you know, all through the 1900s and all that kind of thing. And in our house, it still is, you know, like you have to have fish of a Friday. So I don't eat fish, and I don't like it. If I was completely had no other option, I'm sure I would, you know, but I don't like it. I've tried a couple of kinds, and every week, still, I'm 29 right now. It's, and you don't like fish. And I was like, no, I don't. So I love what you say there, and like when you form a unit with someone, that you have the space to explore that just yourselves, because we all bring in things from our past sometimes into a relationship. And I'm single. Look, I'm not going to pretend any different. I have not figured out how to, maybe not even figured out, but like I haven't connected on a deep level with someone that's actually been able to build and grow. And I don't know how much of that sometimes has been from my side of it, and whatever I'm bringing in, or whatever I don't know in how that happens with people, you know, in that, as you say, that support and finding the balance between the two of you. And my question there, Alyssa, is, you know, where do you find time together to grow on your passions separately, and still make the space? Or has that always just been important from the beginning for you?
It's all about intentionality, because you become like I have no idea who said this, but you become like the 5 people you are closest to. And in spending time with someone, you not only form that relationship and grow to trust one another, but you become more similar to one another. In that, if you spend time with people who are, for example, people who are wealthy, people who are very money minded, you are going to pick up on how they think, how they act about money, what it is that they talk about, and you yourself are going to be naturally more money minded. You're going to be thinking differently. If you hang out with people who really love gathering together on Sundays and enjoying whatever sports is currently happening, I think in America it's football. Unless it's the Olympics, I don't care about sports. But if you are together with people who really love sports and really care about their teams, you are going to start picking a team, probably theirs, and really care about it, because you become like your environment. And that's something that I'm so, so grateful for, is my family. I grew up in a very, very Christian household. My whole family, both my parents, my brother, have this personal relationship with Jesus. And because I grew up in that, and because all my cousins were the same way, and my grandparents were the same way, and we went to church every Sunday, so I was surrounded by people who love the Lord. So of course that's what I gravitated towards. Because I was in that nurturing environment, I was nurtured in my faith, and now it is fully my own. And my husband was the same way. He also grew up in a Christian household, is a very strong Christian. And it's honestly, though, that relationship, it's my personal relationship with my Savior, it's his personal relationship with our Savior, is why our relationship with each other is so strong. Because it's not built on oh my goodness, he's so attractive. I want to marry him. We were very intentional while dating to figure out if we would be a good match for life. Because for us, marriage is for life. Is unity between man and woman under God until death do us part. And we took it that seriously. So when we were dating, it was really important to us that were we actually compatible with each other, and were there skeletons in the closet that we needed to figure out about one another? Were there things that we needed to work out through with each other? Like, I was a terrible communicator, so bad communicator. And I also felt guilty for things that I had no reason feeling guilty for. And that was really difficult, especially with, just starting to date. And neither of us had dated anyone before either. So my first relationship was with Josh. His first was with mine, and I'm so grateful for that. But it was in those times of, wrestling through all of the, because we're human, we all pick stuff up. Even if you are in an incredible family and environment growing up, you're still going to have some baggage and things to figure out. Even if you live in the same country, if you're in the US, same state, you're in the same proximity as each other, your two families are two completely different cultures. And learning those differences, and that's why I said when you do get married, I would recommend being intentional to make time with just between you and your spouse for a few years, even if that means moving away from people, because you need to figure out what your family culture is going to be. Typically it's a combination of both, but sometimes things conflict in family cultures, and you just got to figure that out. But the reason why our relationship is so strong is because it's founded on our Savior. It's founded on God. We live the principles that are in the Bible. We live off of those. Our faith is both so important to us. So we grow individually together. Like, I'm working on my business. He's working his job. We'll spend time together in the evenings. We'll spend time together in the mornings whenever, after a meeting, I'll see he's off a meeting, and then I'll get up and I'll walk over to his desk, and then I'll, give him a hug. And then our dog wakes up and goes, "Oh no, there's attention to be had. Therefore I must have it too." So yeah, dogs are dogs. But it's all about intentionality. Like, you make time for what's important to you, whether that's reading the Bible every morning, whether that's being with your family, being with your friends, building a business, going to work, watching a specific show. You make time for what's important. So if you're not making time for someone that you're in a relationship with, that should be a kind of flag to you of what is important to me, where are my priorities, and how can I adjust what I'm doing with my time to fill those priorities, make sure that they get the priority. And I think that's what's crucial for a strong relationship and a lasting marriage. Like, yes, we're still technically newlyweds. We've been married a little over 3 years, but the year we got married, both of our parents hit their 30th anniversary. And both of our parents have, they have their own stories. They've been through a lot, but growing up and seeing the commitment to one another, that no matter how hard it gets, how bad it gets, what life throws at you, that we are sticking with each other. Because if you think about it like warriors, you can have a fighter who's incredibly skilled, but he can very easily be overwhelmed unless there's someone at his back who can cover the blind spots, who can cover the weaknesses, and then he in turn can cover her weaknesses with his strengths. And that's what a healthy relationship should look like. It is a partnership, and it's not it. Oh my goodness. Romance is not, I can make you better. It is, you make me better simply by being in proximity. Like Josh and I we're both independent. We can, do life on our own, figure things out, that kind of thing. But in order to have a healthy relationship, you need to know who you are, and they need to know who they are. Because if you are crumbling and are incredibly weak and life has just beaten you down, if they can't hold themselves up, how can they pick you up? And vice versa. So I think a lot of people tend to start relationships based off of the physicality of someone, and knowing that won't last. Is that a part of it? Yes, it's a part of it. We are human beings. We are made with just that way of thinking and those emotions for a reason. They're a beautiful thing. But, we all age. We all change physically. Having the relationship be something so much deeper than on the surface is what, why you see people in their 80s and their 90s and these couples that have been together since they were like 16 work, and why they still act like, 16-year-old lovebirds or like early 20s brand new married. It's because they know what's important, and it's the other person and the other person's character and well-being. And that's what really love is it's action. Love is not a feeling, it is a verb, it is action. So taking actions, taking steps, standing up in the middle of the workday and, hugging Josh because he sighs, and I'm like, okay, something's bothering him at work. Let me give him this little bit of comfort. Or he does the same thing for me during the day, or he shows up randomly with flowers at times. I make dinner for him. Like we do little actions for each other, not because the other one asks, but because we love each other and we want to help one another. And that is how we grow separately and on our own. It is because we have that foundation of our faith. It really is. And the foundation of a firm relationship is two equally yoked people. We will always have flaws. We will always have problems. There will always be problems in life. But it's two people coming together, not one person and like someone who can't even stand on their own.
That's so true, Alyssa. Like everything you said there should just be spread and spread again, because for me and my mission, that's where it started. It started when I realized that not only was I not happy in my relationship, I wasn't happy in me. And my question at the time was, is this me or is it the relationship? And I learned as time went on that the answer was both. But the deeper question to that was, well, what kind of woman do I want to be? And when we look at role models and, as you say, different skeletons, things from our past, things that happen in our families, things that, we see maybe growing up or through the media or through other stories or whatever it might be, if you don't have a core reflection, to kind of, or like, as I say, just that role model of what you're moving towards in becoming, as you grow up, like as a young girl and as a teenage girl and as a young woman then in her 20s, if you don't actually know your values, or if you don't share them, if you know them but you're not sharing them, or you don't have a future image of what you're growing up to become, as I say, that's for me where it all got, as I call it, cloudy. And the mother cloud of my ultimate message is in that journey of nuggets of truth, of kind of finding where, as you say, love as a verb was coming through, like through to me and through out of me in those real moments of a connection with the world, like not just necessarily with another person, like with the things that do bring out who I am. And as you say, if you don't know the core of yourself and you don't have that relationship with yourself and with a higher power, with a God, for anyone listening, like of your understanding of something outside of yourself, whether it's the Christian God or in some other spiritual way that you have a connection. For myself, in even saying with your upbringing, Alyssa, like I'm from Catholic Ireland and we went to mass every Sunday 9:30 out in Whitehall and would sing in the choir. And I like the choir. I love the choir. I like, my family would only go, my mom and dad particularly would only go to bring me. My grandparents would always go anyway, but they'd only go to bring me because I'd be singing, and then you'd be reading at mass, you'd be serving on the altar. Things like when the Eucharistic Congress came to Ireland, went to that with my granny, went to Lourdes on pilgrimage, a few times, that kind of thing. I didn't have an awareness that I had a connection until my granny said something before about like how the priest said to her that Lauren is actually quite religious in her own way. And that was said to me, and then that kind of held the mirror up to me, and I was like, well, yeah, I am. And I never questioned it. I was like, of course I am. Like, sure, you say your prayers at night. You were reared to say your prayers in the morning on the way to school. In the car, you were taught the prayers, and you pray at night. And then suddenly the culture of, as you say, the environment you're around and the people that you spend time with, when that changes, out of a small rural country primary school to now a bigger school in town, and where your year group is twice the size of the entire school was that you've just come from, and even though you're in a Catholic school still, and the ethos is still there, and there's the mass at the start of the year, and there's different things at Christmas, and throughout the year there's an integration, and an instilling in your personal development of becoming this kind of young woman as such. And I remember, we would have had Ministry of Youth in with us, and it was somewhere in and around that I had decided, certain values around what I wanted my relationships with my marriage to look like, that kind of thing. But I never really had the strength or the conviction to kind of always say that, and particularly with boys or that then, like as a teenage girl, and because your environment, your culture, your friends aren't maybe all on the same boat. And like, again, anyone listening, any friends, I'm absolutely not painting a picture of that. I know where my own conscious choices have been and that kind of thing. But if I had, and at times still, it's like, if I can be truer to where I know there is a stronger depth, that rather than, and my question to you, Alyssa, is like, have you ever had that conflict of where your stronger, deeper self is to, as you say, that chameleon, that social chameleon, or that need to fit, I suppose, ever come up for you as a young woman and as a girl, growing up with your faith and your values, and how you would express yourself either in anything, like how you'd wear your clothes, the kind of activities you would or wouldn't go to, or have you always had that community aspect, is my question.
It's a little bit of both. I always had that community, in that I said, like, the family that I grew up in, we went to church. So Wednesday night, did youth group. And then for my middle and high school years, I went to Christian schools. So I understand you going from like small, because when I graduated, when I graduated high school, we had the biggest class in the history of my school. I mean, massive, multitudes larger than any other graduating class. We graduated with 22 students. Usually it's like 6 per class. So then when I went from there to the university and was in a class of 800 students in one class, it was kind of, so I understand that little bit of a culture shock. But when it came to being like my true self and then the people pleasing, though I was surrounded by friends and by Christian communities, I spent so many years of my life feeling incredibly isolated. And it was because of my faith, which seems a little contradictory because I'm surrounded by all these other Christians. Well, there is something that a lot of believers don't believe. That is true. It is essential. And that is, so for those who don't really know, my faith is God created everything, created man, man sinned. He did what we were told not to do, and that has caused sin to enter the world. And God is triune in that he is 3 in 1, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. God the Son came down to earth, was born as a man, fully man, lived a perfect sinless life, and was crucified, which is the most torturous form of execution, in order to pay the blood penalty for our sins. And for those who believe in that gift and accept that gift are now a part of his family and will live with him for eternity in peace, because the world will be made new, and it will be made new without sickness, without disease, without evil, without corruption. I just read Revelation this morning, so it's still very fresh in my mind. And a lot, if you read all the miracles that Jesus did, he did not perform a single miracle. He didn't do a single thing until the Holy Spirit descended upon him after he was baptized. He, being fully man, still relied on the Holy Spirit, because that's what we're supposed to as well. And there's, if you read throughout the New Testament, throughout Acts, throughout all the writings from Paul, Peter, and all the other apostles, is they speak of gifts, spiritual gifts. They speak of prophetic gifts, gifts of teaching, gifts of healing, all these different things. And a lot of modern Christians do not believe those exist any longer. But they do. And when I was 12, when we moved, my dad retired from the military. We moved back to the mainland because the last 6 years we were stationed in Hawaii, which was an incredible experience to grow up in such a beautifully diverse culture. It was amazing. But when we moved back to the mainland, we were watching a show, and I'm like, why does it feel like fire is encroaching upon me? I don't understand. I feel like everything on me, like my back is on fire. What is this? Something is wrong. And it took some time to figure out that I had the spiritual gift of discernment, and that I could tell when something was demonic. I could tell when the Lord really moved with something. So I could tell when there were spiritual beings attached to different things. It primarily was in media. And because I was very young, again, I was 12, right in that foundational trying to figure out who you are, I expected this was normal. And I expected to like, yeah, why are you still watching that show? Clearly it's demonic. Like, what are we doing here? And no, that wasn't normal. And then trying to talk to like a dad, like he and I went to talk to different pastors about things, and just trying to find people that I could talk to and figure this out, because I was a child sensing all of these things. And at times they were very scary because I didn't understand that. I didn't really get in my head yet that I am the daughter of the Most High God. I have the authority to shut down anything that I pick up on fully. I have full authority to cast anything out that I sense. That is the kind of authority that you have when you are a child of God. And a lot of people don't realize that, and they drop it, or they go, oh yeah, demons don't exist or whatever. And it's because of that they can work their best, specifically in this nation. Because depending on where you go in the world, you know, if an enemy can get away by being quiet and stealthy and unnoticed, of course they're going to work that way. If an enemy is going to work the best, causing as much fear and chaos as possible, of course they're going to work that way. In this nation, it's our apathy towards it. Like, oh yeah, that doesn't exist. What, heaven and hell aren't a thing. Who cares? I will live my life, so they can go, okay, let's fly under the radar and work like this. And because I picked up on that, and I couldn't find people who related to that, I really, really began to isolate and pull into myself and really be like, okay, Lord, it is just you and me. I can't find anyone who understands this. Clearly you do, and you gave this to me. Can you help me figure it out? And because it was so isolating, I really kept that to myself for a long time and kind of like shut it down. And it wasn't until college. I remember one night I was in the bathroom, just in the middle of the night, weeping. Lord, I am so alone. Can you please bring me somebody? And then the next day, a couple of girls on the hall were hanging out. And my friend Rachel's like, oh, I said I was going to FaceTime a friend to watch this show. I'm like, oh, what show was it? She told me. I'm like, hey, I've been waiting for that season to come out. Do you mind if I join you? So we started watching together, and that really started the relationship of my friend Rachel, the battering ram, as she saw this little introvert with her walls up and went, nope, and let's break those down. You need to socialize. And it was through her friendships kept growing, friend group kept growing. Then Josh was introduced because friends of friends were on his. My friend and her boyfriend at the time went to lunch with Josh because the two boys were on the same hall. And she's like, oh yeah, I put together this murder mystery party. You're hilarious. I'm writing you in. You need to come. And that's how we met, was at that party. Is at this silly little thing. But it was really through those relationships in college, and especially through my relationship with Josh, because he had had some similar experiences to me in high school and also couldn't really talk about it to other people because a lot of people don't believe these kind of things exist. And, you know, through our marriage and through the last several months of really stepping into who I am, which is I am the child, the blood-bought, adopted child of the Most High God, of the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. He dwells within me, and as does his authority. Living like that, instead of hiding in a corner, is how we're called to be. And it's because of that that I can now very confidently share with people, yes, I have had these experiences. And a lot of people will be like, what is going on? That sounds terrifying. It's like, but like, especially media, oh my goodness. Hollywood has so glorified demons and the spiritual realm, in that giving them a whole lot more power than they actually have.
I resonate, Alyssa, with so much you said there, particularly with in feeling something and seeing something that other people can't feel and see, you know, and that for me, so when I say the mother cloud, it's like I can see this in other people, you know, and I think I could see it before I knew that's what I was seeing, in the sense that it was behavior for me. Like I could see a human truth in someone, in their behavior, even from as a child, you know, and that core feeling, that core sense of, I suppose, safety and unsafety, a little similar to what you say with the demons there in recognizing, but more so in where you could see a little bit more in someone. And like for me, coming from an education background now the last 10 years, you know, now moving into the coaching sphere of, I remember being told that from a boyfriend at the time when I was like 16. He was like, oh, you just always have the future mapped out for me, and you're always trying to tell me what I'm meant to be doing, like because with exams, you know, I suppose that's the Hermione in me, like of kind of putting a push, but it's because you can see the depth of someone a bit clearer than they may, either can see it or not, and you can feel that. Like I can physically feel that. And sometimes that's great and it brings such a high emotion, and sometimes it's the kind of thing that can cut me open, you know, from the hurt of it, you know, or
Yeah.
yeah, the hurt is the word. Yeah. And my granny would always say that. Like she'd say her faith hasn't really been strong for the last 15 years or more maybe, but she'd tell you that herself. She kind of stopped praying at night, that kind of thing. When everything, I suppose, was being tested for her. But she would say that she doesn't know if God exists, but she definitely believes the devil exists, you know, and she would say that, you know, hell is on earth, you know, that we are living through hell now. And if we can pass this as such, that's the way she sees it, you know, and that I would always have reflected on of, we do have a tendency to see the bad before we see the good sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and what I hear more than anything there, Alyssa, and I think that's beautiful, is you asked for connection. You asked God to bring you someone, something, you know, from your isolation. And you found your best friend and your friend group and your husband from that ask, from putting that out there. So I think we could talk. I would love to go so deep in so much more. I think we could have like a series of talking just even the spirituality side of things of the church and so on. But my question, Alyssa, is what is next? You know, what are you putting out there for you in the next sphere, and what do you see, and what's coming, or what are you asking to come?
Definitely. And yes, I would love to talk more about, you know, spiritual things, because it's, like I said, it's such a sphere of like, oh, hush, quiet. We don't talk about those things. We don't talk about religion or any of those things. And I think there's a
And
lot
I'll just
of...
jump in on that, really, not to cut across you, but like that's why I love this, because it's the same here in Ireland. Like I don't know the US how much of a taboo it is, but here, you know, humans did some terrible things, and humans mismanaged structures, institutions terribly here.
Yes.
Like, and we don't need to even mention it. But if it's possible to keep coming away from what humans have done wrong and flawed human and where the devil does seep in, if you can keep coming away from where some of those major mistakes happened and come back to what the truth of the message is meant to be, and what the core, as you say, whether within the beliefs and the core journey of the faith, of the Christian faith, that's where these discussions are so powerful and are so deep, and where I suppose I always saw through mass, like, and through religion for myself. And I teach religion, you know, I've taught religion, I've taught the 5 major world religions, and it all comes back to the same core messages of the human truth as well. But if we're looking at anyone listening from Catholic Christian Ireland, and over the water and anywhere, you know, whether it's a flaw in the human structure in an institution of the religion, and if you can pull away from that back to what is actually trying to be put forward, that's what we're talking about here. And Alyssa, yeah, I would talk for hours with you a little bit deeper. So sorry to jump in. I had to say that as well, because it's not something that's talked about, and certainly not in our generation. And particularly, as I say here right now, anyone who is still listening, thank you so much for staying through us here with that, because it means that you're with us and you're like-minded in how important that is. So Alyssa, sorry, if you want to continue.
All good. Just one little snippet that I want to give you all hope about is when you do read through the Gospels, the New Testament, the telling of when Jesus was on earth, the only people he got angry at, the only people he got angry at were the religious leaders who were using the power that the religion gave them in order to have power and control over others and twisting the truth. They are the only people that he spoke out against. And I want for any of those who have experienced some kind of church hurt or hurt from religion to hear that, because again, that they are the only people he spoke out against. But yeah, would love to keep talking about that later. But next steps for me is, you know, to keep growing, keep telling stories. I am launching a YouTube channel to give tips and tricks, words, about writing and how to build better characters and how to go deeper in the craft of storytelling. And I want to really help people have the foundation that I spent the better part of a decade trying to figure out myself and go to college for and all these things on how to write so that they can start writing now, and really give people that encouragement and also that clarity that there are a bunch of different tools and you don't have to use every tool. If there's a tool that you tried and it does not work for you, well, then set it aside, pick something up, try something different, and really, you know, give young aspiring writers, specifically fantasy writers, that nudge of you can write something and it can be good. Will your first draft be sloppy and probably terrible? Yes, even experienced writers, their first drafts aren't good. That's just the nature of it. That's why it's a rough draft. But as you keep going and you keep getting better and you keep practicing, your craft will improve just like any other artist will. So starting up a YouTube channel. It's called Going Beyond Entertainment. I have a bunch of videos that I've have to upload over the next coming weeks already ready to go. This all about writing tips and tricks and also, you know, encouragement for people. So that's kind of my next step, and to continue working on my fantasy trilogy that I'm writing, which is heavily inspired from my struggles in life and also my relationship with Josh. Because I want to show people you can have a good, solid romantic relationship that's healthy. Even when the world throws everything at you, you can still be together and encourage each other. So those are kind of my next steps.
I love that, Alyssa. And what do they bring for you? What will that mean for you? What do you see? I know you're at the point where you've journeyed through the origins of your newlyweds, you know, the origins of your marriage now, you know, those first steps, and you've found what doesn't serve you and also what does, in being home now again and closer to families. What do you see, or are you enjoying the journey?
Oh, yeah. The goal at the moment is to, I feel like the goal of most people our age, especially married, is save up for a house. But yeah, the goal is to just keep growing together, keep growing closer to our families, growing closer to the Lord. And my ultimate goal with growing this whole business is I would love to retire my husband so that if he wants to keep doing what he's doing, he can. If he wants to run off and do whatever else he wants, he can, because he supported me so much. I want to also give him that same opportunity. So that's my ultimate goal with growing all of this, is not only helping young artists, but also being able to give my husband the opportunities that he's given me. And that makes me so excited.
That's gorgeous. I love that. And you can really see, Alyssa, and thank you so much for like the openness in sharing your relationship, your story, your mission, and the work that you're doing and building. You can really see just how true it is to you, and how integrated that is, you know, for you. And I have no doubt that as things move forward, you know, and as our friendship and our connection grows, that all of that abundance is already there and is continuing to come, because you can see, for friends listening, you know, you can see in the background everything Alyssa's doing for her work, for you, for the friends that need that help with her YouTube channel and with her story and with her mission. And I'm just excited to watch the process and grateful to be a part of it, to, as I say, to have connected and say that this is someone in my life that there is not just a similarity in what we're currently doing, but there's also a similarity in the person. And my takeaway, my message to anyone from our chat today is how can you go a little bit deeper? You know, is there a part of life that you've kind of been skimming because it is at surface level, maybe that social comedian stage, or maybe a work that you don't actually fully value what they're trying to do, and you want to walk out? You know, is there something there that you could maybe go a little bit deeper? And I would invite anyone listening to maybe consider that after our chat today. And Alyssa, thank you so much. I'd love if you wanted to come back again sometime and share with us the next stage of the journey. And I wish you all the best. And as I say, just grateful to witness and be a part of. Friends, as you say, you can check out our show notes to go to Alyssa's YouTube page, support the journey, and learn the tips that maybe you need in growing, structuring, and indeed spreading your story to share too. So Alyssa, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was such a sweet time. Thank you.
Anytime.